Hi, I'm Thorsten, and the Oscars are on Sunday, March 12th. I'm here to talk about the 10 movies nominated for Best Picture. The candidates were selected from all movies released in the calendar year of 2022. I will rank them from 10 to 1, and with number 1 obviously being the movie I think should win. Whether that will happen or not, we'll all find out on Sunday. Up front, I want to say that none of the movies nominated was bad, which is surprising given what we've seen in the past. That said, while none were bad movies, there are definitely a few I'm surprised by getting nominated. As for picking the best movie, I had a really tough time picking between two. Those two are pretty much equal in my opinion, and I had to watch them multiple times to make up my mind. But let's start with number 10. Number 10 is Top Gun Maverick, in my opinion. Top Gun Maverick takes place more than 30 years after the events of Top Gun, the first movie. Pete Maverick Mitchell is back and called in to train the next generation of fighter pilots carrying out an impossible mission. So much for the premise and plot, but what's the story? You'll be looking for quite some time to find one. I have no idea why this movie was nominated. Sure, it's a good movie with an amazing soundtrack. A feel-good movie with the excitement of a sports game. If you love watching an exciting basketball, soccer, or boxing match, you'll like this movie. But there's no real story, no message. If you want to stretch it, you could say the message is teamwork makes you accomplish the impossible. But that's about it. Instead of this movie, there could have been others more deserving that were left out. For example, Causeway, After Sun, The Adam Project, or even Strange World. Again, it's a pretty good movie. It just has no chance of winning Best Picture, in my opinion. Number 9, The Fabelmans. The movie is about a family Fabelman, but especially young Sam Fabelman, son of Bert and Mitzi, who discovers his love for movies. It's a classic coming-of-age story. It really is about Steven Spielberg's own upbringing and memories as a child. Spielberg uses the Fabelmans to retell the events of his own childhood. As I said, it's a classic coming-of-age story, and a very well executed one. It provides insight into the passion of a young Spielberg, his dedication and love for movies. That said, if you detach the name Spielberg from it and see the movie for what it is, it's still a good movie, but it isn't one that stands out among all the other coming-of-age stories there are, and there are thousands of them. It's a typical situation in which a kid deals with the separation of his parents and bullying in school while finding fulfillment in a hobby he's pursuing separately, and seeing his hobby become his calling. Number 8. All Quiet on the Western Front, or Im Westen nichts Neues. The movie is about Paul Bäumer enlisting to fight in World War I for the German army alongside his friends. He soon gets to experience the stark contrast between his expectations and the reality of war. The movie is about the portrayal of trauma, disregard of life during war times, and the gap of lifestyles between soldiers and the upper ranks of the military. What I like about this movie is the individual experience of war. Instead of troop movements or strategy, we see realistic fight scenes and the point of view from the soldier's perspective. There's a stark contrast between the expectations and reality, and it displays the trauma of war. There are many things I didn't like about this movie. They had great source material in the original book from 1928 or 29 when the book was published. There were already 2 movie adaptations made. So I feel this movie could have been so much more. They completely skipped over the recruitment portion that in the source material in the book is detailed at length as the influence for the students by the teachers talking in high regards, praising the war efforts, and kind of functioning as recruitment tool for young adults, teenagers. That's all brushed over in this movie. The motivation to join the war is brushed over, dealt with in under 10 minutes. The movie also disregards the communication back at home. We don't see what the press is reporting back in Germany, but it's there in the title. That's from the book the headline of the newspaper the day Paul died. No news in the West, or all quiet on the Western Front, im Westen nichts Neues, even though the main protagonist had just died. None of that is shown in the movie. There are many changes from the source material regarding the death of the characters. Cat dies from a grenade shrapnel, not based on his own negligence when they try to steal animals from the farm and he's shot by the farmer's son. Paul also is shot during a quiet moment when he tries to touch a butterfly and is shot. In the movie, it kind of is portrayed as not a stubbornness, but the willingness to follow orders even to the last second of the war, when few seconds before the ceasefire is announced, they're still being sent into war and they fight it out and he dies at that point. All of those are changes that don't help the message of this movie. It tries a lot, but masters none. Brainwashing into joining the war, the trauma during the war and the end of World War I, setting up Hitler's rise with the life after war. None of that is covered by the movie. Number 7, Avatar: The Way of Water. The movie is a sequel to the first Avatar movie. 16 years have passed since the Na'vi successfully defeated the invasion attempt, but now the RDA is back and there to stay. Colonel Miles Quaritch sets out to find and eliminate Jake Sully. Jake flees with his family and goes through the usual difficulties an immigrant family experiences in a new environment. It's about family, refuge, exploration, and the fight against oppressors. But first and foremost, it's about showing off a new technology. The Way of Water uses a new filming technology known as DeepX. DeepX is used to film 3D images underwater. I guess that's what's on display here, because the film covers a lot of that during long scenes with animals in the water. The movie is visually stunning, you can't deny that, but so is every big wildlife documentary. That's what it feels at times, a big wildlife documentary of the fauna and flora on Pandora. The story makes little sense. Why hunt Jake in the first place? And even if you agree that they'd spend all those resources on one person that's on the go anyways, it's not a deep message. It's mainly action and the latest animation leap on display. Decisions by characters are questionable, especially during the end fight. There are plenty of cringy moments. And why would Spider help if he was willing to sacrifice his life to protect the Na'vi in the first place? Number 6, women talking. The movie is about women in an isolated community facing a difficult decision. They no longer stay quiet about the abuse they have endured from the men. And so they form a council to decide what to do next, fight or leave. It's about existential questions of how to gain rights and form a society, how to deal with trauma, and how to stop abuse. It's a slow-paced movie with, how the title says, women talking. They discuss many relevant and valid questions. If to fight, whom to fight? If to leave, whom to take with them? What I like is the consciousness and debate of how to solve this challenge. Seeing all possible options at any point of the debate and following along the most reasonable path gave a sense of security in an absolute insecure position. This is based on a book, and so I'm sure they had to follow a certain path. But none of the men realizing when the women took action at the end was a bit hard to believe. Number 5, Elvis. The movie is about Elvis's life, or more about an idealized version of Elvis's life. It's about show business in the times of Elvis. It's over-exaggerated. Similar to TV shows like Winning Time, it uses real-life elements to create something new. It blurs the line between documentary and entertainment. It's a version of Elvis would have wanted to be told about himself, not how things actually happened. With that in mind, I appreciate this movie for what it is. A stylish piece of entertainment with some truth to it. The soundtrack is fantastic. And this is the only movie I cried at the end when Elvis sings Unchained Melody in what would become his final and last performance. If ignoring the historical context, it's a great movie. It's not a documentary because it's one-sided, but it encourages you to make the right decisions. Everything is a bit too much over-dramatized. There are many historical inaccuracies, for example, his draft into the army, and it feels like cleaning the name of Elvis against previous accusations of not giving enough credit to Black history. Number 4, Tar. This movie by director Todd Field, who also made Little Children, which is one of my favorite movies from 2006. Tar is about Lydia Tar, a fictional character that is so well written and played by Cate Blanchett that I initially thought this was based on a real person. She's not a real person. I googled that. It's about a perfect portrayal of a narcissistic predator who abuses her power. I just don't know why they picked her when there are plenty of non-fictional characters to choose from. But Lydia Tar is well aware of how her toxic traits are perceived by society. She threatens a classmate of her daughter and tells her no one would believe you anyways, the same way she told her former lovers, one of which committed suicide after Tar blocked her in her career path. What I liked about this movie is Cate Blanchett's performance. She deserves absolutely the Oscar for Best Actress in this. One thing that elevated this movie was when I found out that the character of Lydia Tar was fictional. The movie makes you believe it's real, and Cate Blanchett makes you believe it's real. And that's where its power lies. It's the perfect portrayal of someone abusing their position and power. Lydia Tar's downfall is shown without the events in which they happen, which is a very unique and interesting way. You figure out that those are the consequences she's facing now after her actions have been exposed. The movie is not a judgment. It does not take sides. It's a commentary. The message is, we live in a different world now, a world in which those actions have consequences, like it or not. It makes you question cancel culture while agreeing with it at the same time. Lydia is a horrible person, an abuser, a liar, narcissist, and her downfall is justified. But who decides that? The public? Guided by the media? There is no trial, as there is no crime in a traditional sense. You end up seeing both sides, which is a very unique accomplishment. Number 3. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. The movie is about Evelyn, who is a Chinese mother, wife, and daughter who tries to satisfy all expectations in her various roles, as well as her own business, a laundromat. The movie is about coming to terms with the present and with what you have. I don't think it's about ignoring alternative paths. She starts realizing what she's doing to her daughter and husband by having too high expectations in how they should behave. She ends up accepting herself and others for what they are. It's about kindness and acceptance, and to make things work with what you have. It's done in a very unique way. It's basically the answer to the question of, what if your mom saw the world like your son does? Evelyn encounters a multiverse from which alternative versions of her husband talk to her until she herself is able to jump between those and take on the skills of her other selves. I like that this movie makes you think. It's food for thought. It holds a mirror to everyone's toxic actions and relationships. It makes you think about your own personal grievances and offers a path to overcome them. There are alternative versions of you out there. Why not be one of them yourself? You can turn the page of your own script. This is a great movie, and trying to find things I don't like is very hard. If I had to nitpick, I'd say that the family dynamic of an overbearing mother seems to be very stereotypical and a common trope used for Asian and Latino families. While part of that is true, it's a very narrow view. But again, there's some truth to it, which probably is why it works. The next 2 movies are equally deserving of winning the Oscar, in my opinion. I'd make it a tie if I could, but I know that's not what's gonna happen. So I forced myself to pick. But rest assured, both deserve it because they are both masterpieces. So, number 2, The Banshees of Inisherin. The movie is about Podrick and the people around him who live on the fictional island of Inisherin. One day, his best friend Colm does not want to talk to him anymore, which completely derails Podrick's entire life. Colm feels like wasting his time with Podrick. He wants to focus on accomplishing something more. Podrick doesn't understand and keeps bugging Colm. In return, Colm takes stronger measures to ensure he's not bothered by Podrick. It's about friendship, intellect, depression, kindness, and niceness. The different degrees of niceness and where different paths lead you based on how you decide to live your life. It's about coping with your place in life, the importance of being nice. Dominic, on one hand, is too nice. It's never fully answered, but he seems to end up killing himself because he can't cope with the situation any longer. Shaban is the only one who can escape that life because she values her self-growth more than the niceness towards her brother. And of course, there's Colm, who disregards kindness in order to work on his personal legacy altogether. I like the environment and style this movie was made in. It is a slice of life piece in 1923 Ireland during the Irish Civil War between IRA and Irish Free State on the mainland, while the movie's events happen on a fictional island that is separate from the war efforts and never really comes in contact with it, other than hearing the cannon shots across the ocean. And the movie possesses a subtle but genius sense of humor. I like the character arcs. Let's look at Podrick. Colm's actions break him as a person, shake him to his core, and he ends up becoming a different person, so much that his friend Dominic doesn't recognize him anymore and loses faith in him. What Colm is to Podrick is what Podrick is to Dominic, but Podrick doesn't see that. I love the acting in this. Barry Keoghan should win an Oscar for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for his portrayal of Dominic. If there's anything to complain about in this movie, it might be the slow pacing, but to be honest, it perfectly matches the backdrop of an Irish island in 1923. There could have also been more character exploration of Shaban and Dominic, but I think what we got is awesome already. My question for you to answer in the comments: do you think Dominic's death was suicide, an accident, or did his dad kill him? In my opinion, I think it was suicide, which makes it even more tragic because no one realizes his struggles, not even after he's dead. Everyone chalks it off as an accident. Podrick even hides the death of his miniature donkey when he writes his sister, but has no problem mentioning Dominic's death, not even concerned about that potentially upsetting her. But let me know in the comments what you think. And we get to number 1. Triangle of Sadness. I don't know how likely it is for this movie to actually win the Oscar for Best Picture, but in my opinion, it absolutely deserves it. The Triangle of Sadness is about multiple things, so many different things. It's about Carl and his girlfriend Jaja, both work in the model industry. It's about the rich and the poor. It's about power constellations. It's about societies, power struggles, shift in power, structures, hypocrisy, ignorance, values, and so much more. It's a commentary on society and the abuse of power. It is on your nose and it's hilarious as it is tragic. The movie is split into 3 parts. First part deals with Carl and Jaja's relationship and their struggles with touchy subjects like gender roles, money, and love, loyalty, and everything that comes with discovering yourself as a young couple. In the second part, the decadency is on full display. It's a closer look at the manners of the super rich on a luxury cruise. This movie and this part has one of the funniest scenes of all movies. The build-up and the implications of when the captain is getting served a burger with fries at the captain's dinner is the epitome of calling out the nonsense of what's going on. I had to pause for 5 minutes while I tried to calm down and my wife telling me I'm interrupting her meeting with my laughter. Then the third part is a on-the-nose power shift in a group of survivors where the value of skills has shifted. It's spelled out for you, which doesn't take away from the questions it raises. Carl's hypocrisy, Abigail's moment for revenge, the uselessness of others. How are societies formed? How do opportunities change values and demeanor? What I liked about this is the amount of social issues it touches on. Yes, it's on the nose, but it needs to be for some, and it doesn't take away from the message. Similar to Tar, it is a commentary on the current society. It's a whole different approach, which obviously produces two complete different movies. However, both Tar and Triangle of Sadness tell the same story. Abusers create their own downfall by their actions, punished by society and the people around them. The Triangle of Sadness is entertaining while commenting on societies, while making you think about values, roles, and behaviors that have been accepted for way too long. If I had to nitpick what I don't like about it, because nothing is perfect, it might be too much on the nose for some. But in it lies the foundation for some of the most ridiculous and hilarious scenes. Over-exaggeration to really hold up that mirror. And there you have it. All movies nominated for this year's Oscar ranked from 10 through 1. Let me know how you would rank them and what movie you hope will win and what movie you think will win, because there's always a difference when it comes to the Oscars. But yeah, I hope you let me know. I hope the Academy has some common sense and agrees on some of this. There are certainly some movies that I hope will not win because it would send the wrong signal. Like, don't assume Elvis is an actual documentary. Don't ignore the fact that Top Gun has no story. And focus on the positive. The Triangle of Sadness, the Banshees of Inisherin, even Everything Everywhere All at Once, maybe even Tar. I'd be happy for winning the Oscar, and we'll all find out on Sunday. So until next time, this was Torsten. Thank you for watching.